Beneath the soil we walk upon, beneath the stone foundations of ancient cities, lies another world. A world hidden from sunlight. A world carved by human hands in ages long forgotten. These are not mere caves or natural shelters. They are vast, sprawling labyrinths, subterranean cities that once thrived in silence beneath the earth. Corridors stretching for miles, chambers echoing with the lives of thousands, and secret passageways that seem to whisper stories of survival, faith, and fear. Why did ancient civilizations choose to build not upward, but downward? What dangers, what beliefs, or what visions compelled entire societies to retreat into darkness? From the mysterious depths of Cappadocia in Turkey to the sacred Hypogeum of Malta, from the burial catacombs of Rome to the ritual tunnels beneath Teotihuacan, we uncover a hidden chapter of human history. This is not just an exploration of stone and soil. It is a journey into the human spirit, its resilience, its imagination, and its unyielding will to survive. Welcome to the hidden world of ancient subterranean cities. Long before humanity built towers that touched the clouds or carved palaces from marble and stone, there was a different kind of architecture. One that descended, not ascended. An architecture of concealment, of protection, of life beneath the earth. The earliest humans sought refuge in natural caves. These caverns offered more than shelter. They provided stability in a world filled with uncertainty. Firelight flickering against stone walls kept the night at bay, while the earth itself became a shield against predators, storms, and rival tribes. In those dimly lit chambers, life could continue when the surface was too dangerous. Long before humanity built towers that touched the clouds or carved palaces from marble and stone, there was a different kind of architecture, one that descended, not ascended. An architecture of concealment, of protection, of life beneath the earth. The earliest humans sought refuge in natural caves. These caverns offered more than shelter. They provided stability in a world filled with uncertainty. Firelight flickering against stone walls kept the night at bay, while the earth itself became a shield against predators, storms, and rival tribes. In those dimly lit chambers, life could continue when the surface was too dangerous. But caves were not merely accidental homes. They were the seed of an idea, that the earth itself could be shaped, that humans could carve out their own spaces beneath the soil, places of permanence rather than chance. As societies advanced, this instinct to seek the safety of the earth evolved into something much greater. The world's first cities rose on the surface, yes, but below them, a parallel story was unfolding. Subterranean chambers were hollowed out to store grain, to preserve food, to protect valuables. Wells and cisterns were dug to reach water far beneath the ground. Slowly, what began as storage and survival expanded into something far more ambitious: underground living. In regions of the world where enemies were constant, where invaders swept across the plains or empires clashed for dominance, life underground offered the promise of security. Hidden beneath layers of rock and soil, families could wait out a siege. Entire communities could vanish from sight, invisible to those who sought to destroy them. The earth became a fortress. But the motives were not always about war. In hot climates, the underground offered coolness in the blazing summer. In bitter winters, it offered warmth. Long before modern air conditioning or heating, people learned to use the natural insulation of the earth to stabilize their lives. There was also symbolism at work. Across cultures, the underground world was tied to myth and meaning. To go below the earth was to enter the realm of the ancestors, or to walk closer to the underworld of gods and spirits. Some societies carved subterranean temples where rituals echoed through the stone, resonating like voices from beyond. For them, the act of descending was not only practical, it was sacred. In Anatolia, in the heart of modern-day Turkey, ancient builders would carve entire networks of tunnels and cities into volcanic rock, creating hidden metropolises. In Malta, early peoples transformed limestone into underground sanctuaries for the dead. In China, the soil of the Loess Plateau became home to millions who dug dwellings into its soft walls, turning the earth itself into a cityscape. And in the Americas, tunnels beneath pyramids connected rulers and priests to their gods. The idea of underground living, then, was not limited to one culture, one place, or one purpose. It was a universal impulse, repeated in different corners of the globe, shaped by different needs, but united by the same truth, that beneath the surface, humans found safety, stability, and meaning. What is remarkable is how advanced some of these subterranean worlds became. They were not crude holes or temporary shelters. They were carefully engineered, with ventilation systems to bring in fresh air, wells to ensure water, and even defensive designs to keep enemies at bay. To walk through their passages today is to realize that these ancient people were not simply hiding, they were building alternate civilizations in the dark. In many ways, the underground represented the resilience of humanity. It was a response to fear, yes, but also a response to imagination. The surface was not the only option. When the world above grew dangerous or too harsh or too sacred to disturb, our ancestors looked down instead of up. In the heart of modern-day Turkey, where strange rock formations rise like frozen flames from the earth, lies one of humanity's most astonishing secrets. Beneath the volcanic landscape of Cappadocia is not only a region dotted with caves and rock-hewn churches, but an entire city carved deep below the ground. A city known as Derinkuyu. The story of its rediscovery is as dramatic as the city itself. In 1963, a local man renovating his home knocked down a wall in his basement, only to uncover a hidden passage. What he found led archaeologists to one of the most extraordinary underground complexes ever revealed. Behind that wall lay not a simple cave, but a sprawling labyrinth descending over 280 feet into the earth. Derinkuyu is vast beyond imagination. At its peak, it could house 20,000 people, men, women, children, and even their livestock. Spread across multiple levels, its chambers include kitchens, storerooms, wine presses, stables, wells, schools, and chapels. Walking through it today, one cannot help but feel as though one has stepped into a shadow version of an ancient city, mirroring life above, yet carefully hidden below. What makes Derinkuyu remarkable is not just its size, but its design. Every corridor, every chamber, seems to have been carved with survival in mind. Narrow tunnels connected the levels, forcing anyone moving through them to proceed single file, a perfect defense against intruders. Massive circular stone doors, some weighing more than 1,000 pounds, could be rolled across passageways to seal entire sections of the city. From inside, these could only be opened with a clever system of levers, making Derinkuyu nearly impenetrable to outside attack. Ventilation shafts plunge hundreds of feet through the rock, supplying fresh air even to the deepest levels. Some scholars count nearly 15,000 separate air ducts, creating an astonishingly efficient system that allowed thousands of people to live underground for weeks or even months at a time. Wells provided clean water, cleverly designed so they could not be poisoned from the surface. There were communal kitchens where smoke was carefully vented through hidden shafts, schools where children could continue to learn, and chapels where prayers were offered. In every detail, Derinkuyu was a city built not for temporary hiding, but for sustained living. Why would anyone go to such extraordinary lengths to carve a city of stone beneath the earth? Historians and archaeologists offer several theories. One suggests that Derinkuyu was created as a refuge from invasion. Cappadocia lay at the crossroads of empires: Hittite, Persian, Roman, Byzantine, Seljuk, and Ottoman. With war and conquest a constant threat, an underground city would offer unmatched protection. Entire communities could vanish from the surface, hidden from view while enemy armies marched overhead. Another theory points to the region's early Christian communities. Cappadocia was home to monastic orders and cave churches, carved into soft volcanic rock. For believers facing persecution, an underground city provided both sanctuary and secrecy. Indeed, Derinkuyu contains chapels and religious spaces that suggest spiritual as well as practical purposes. Some scholars look even further back. Could Derinkuyu have been begun in the time of the Hittites nearly 3,500 years ago and later expanded by successive cultures? The layers of construction suggest a long history of use, modified and deepened by generation after generation. And of course, there are more speculative ideas. That Derinkuyu was not just a city of refuge, but a response to environmental catastrophe, perhaps even a shelter against ancient climatic disasters. Whatever the truth, the mystery of purpose only adds to its fascination. To imagine life in Derinkuyu is to picture a world where the rhythms of daily existence unfolded in darkness. The chatter of families in narrow rooms, the sounds of animals kept in underground stables, the glow of oil lamps flickering against stone walls, the echo of footsteps in long, winding tunnels. Here, people cooked, studied, prayed, and lived, cut off from sunlight, yet sustained by the ingenuity of their builders. For children born and raised during times of refuge, the underground world may have seemed as natural as the one above. It is difficult not to feel a sense of awe walking through Derinkuyu today. Each chamber tells a story, not of kings and conquests, but of ordinary families who survived by adapting to extraordinary circumstances. Derinkuyu is more than just an archaeological site. It is a testament to the resilience of human beings. Faced with threats from nature and neighbor alike, ancient people responded not with surrender, but with imagination. They took the earth itself and shaped it into a fortress, a sanctuary, a city. Even now, much of Derinkuyu remains unexplored. Some passages are sealed, their destinations unknown. Tunnels stretch toward neighboring underground cities, suggesting a network of connected refuges spanning miles beneath Cappadocia. The hidden world beneath the earth is far larger than we have yet discovered. And as we stand at the entrance, looking down into its depths, we are reminded of a simple truth: that human survival has always depended on our ability to adapt. For the people of Cappadocia, that meant turning darkness into a home, and the earth itself into a shield. Derinkuyu may be the most famous of Cappadocia's underground cities, but it is not alone. Beneath the rolling valleys and volcanic spires of this Anatolian landscape lies an entire hidden world. Hundreds of subterranean settlements carved into the earth. Cappadocia is a land already defined by its unique geology. Millions of years ago, volcanic eruptions blanketed the region with ash, which hardened into a soft rock known as tuff. Wind and rain sculpted this tuff into dramatic formations: cone-shaped towers, honeycombed cliffs, and deep valleys. For early inhabitants, this was both a challenge and an opportunity. The rock was too soft for monumental building on the surface, but it was perfect for carving. And so, people did not just build upon the land, they built within it and beneath it. Archaeologists have identified more than 200 underground cities in Cappadocia, ranging from small complexes for a handful of families to sprawling networks capable of housing thousands. Many remain partially unexplored, their passageways sealed by collapse or still hidden beneath modern towns. Among them, Kaymakli is one of the most remarkable. Just a few miles from Derinkuyu, Kaymakli extends across 8 levels, though only 4 are open to visitors today. Narrow passages twist and turn, leading to storerooms, stables, kitchens, and communal areas. Unlike the more vertical design of Derinkuyu, Kaymakli spreads outward in a labyrinth of chambers, giving it a more expansive feel. What is astonishing is how these cities seem to have been connected. Long tunnels, some stretching for miles, link Kaymakli to Derinkuyu and beyond. Scholars suggest that during times of extreme danger, entire populations could move between cities underground, forming a vast network of hidden refuge across the region. To sustain life underground required incredible ingenuity. Air shafts, sometimes more than 200 feet deep, funneled fresh air into even the lowest chambers. Some were cleverly disguised at the surface, hidden among rocks and valleys so enemies could not detect them. Water was secured through underground wells, some of which tapped directly into aquifers. These were carefully isolated so that water could not be poisoned from above. Grain and wine were stored in deep, cool cellars carved into the rock, their temperatures naturally regulated by the earth. Large communal kitchens, blackened by centuries of fire, reveal how entire populations cooked underground without suffocating from smoke. Ventilation shafts carried it away, blending seamlessly with the wind above. The scale of planning is staggering. These were not makeshift shelters thrown together in desperation. They were carefully designed cities, built for long-term sustainability, with the foresight of generations. Imagine families descending into the earth as enemy armies approached, carrying food, tools, and livestock. For weeks, or even months, they would live by the glow of oil lamps, their days structured by necessity. Children learned in small classrooms, their voices echoing in stone halls. Priests held services in underground chapels, their prayers resonating through the carved arches. Animals were housed in stables on the upper levels, their sounds and smells contained but vital for survival. Lower levels were reserved for storerooms, kitchens, and sleeping quarters. At the deepest levels lay secret escape routes, tunnels that could carry survivors out to valleys miles away if discovery threatened. It was life lived in shadows, but it was life nonetheless. Organized, communal, and surprisingly vibrant. The underground cities of Cappadocia were not built all at once. They were shaped and reshaped over centuries, each generation expanding what came before. Some historians trace their origins to the Hittites around 1500 BCE, when the first chambers may have been carved as storage or refuge. Later, the Phrygians, Persians, and Byzantines expanded them. During the early Christian era, Cappadocia's underground cities became havens for believers escaping Roman persecution and later Arab raids. This layering of history makes Cappadocia's subterranean world a palimpsest, each tunnel and chamber a chapter written by a different culture, yet all bound by the same impulse: survival through concealment. One of the most intriguing aspects of Cappadocia's underground cities is their interconnectedness. Derinkuyu and Kaymakli, for example, are believed to have been linked by a tunnel over 5 miles long. If such tunnels exist between other cities, then what we see today may only be fragments of a much larger underground network, perhaps the largest in the ancient world. For centuries, these cities remained hidden, known only to local villagers who occasionally used them as storage or shelter. It was not until modern rediscovery that their full scale began to be appreciated. And even now, much remains sealed, unexplored, waiting in the dark. The multitude of underground cities in Cappadocia reveals not only the fears of ancient peoples, but also their extraordinary resilience and creativity. Faced with constant threat in a turbulent region, they turned the very earth into their ally. To walk through these underground cities today is to enter a parallel reality, a world where people lived entire lives out of sight of the sun, sustained by ingenuity and bound by necessity. It is a reminder that history is not only written in monuments that rise above the ground, but also in the shadows that lie beneath it. Far from Cappadocia's sprawling underground cities, on a small island in the heart of the Mediterranean, lies another subterranean wonder. One that speaks not of war or refuge, but of mystery, ritual, and death. This is the Hypogeum of Malta on the island of Malta, a temple carved into the living rock more than 5,000 years ago. Unlike Derinkuyu or Kaymakli, this underground complex was never meant to house the living. Instead, it was a place of ceremony and burial, a sacred world beneath the earth where the living and the dead converged. The Hypogeum was discovered in 1902, quite by accident. A stonemason digging the foundations for a house in the town of Paula broke through into a hidden chamber. At first, the site was disturbed and damaged as workers carted away soil and bones. But soon, archaeologists realized what they had found: a subterranean necropolis and temple, one of the most remarkable in the ancient world. What they uncovered was not a cave, nor a crude burial pit, but a carefully designed and highly symbolic complex extending across 3 levels. It was a world painstakingly carved from limestone, echoing the design of Malta's megalithic temples above ground. Walking through the Hypogeum is like stepping into a dream. Narrow passageways lead into chambers of varying size, some intimate and womb-like, others broad and open. The largest of these is known as the main chamber, with walls carved to resemble the stone facades of above-ground temples. This mirroring suggests that the builders intended the Hypogeum not just as a burial site, but as a sacred counterpart to their world above. Some rooms are decorated with red ochre spirals and geometric designs, among the few surviving prehistoric paintings in the Mediterranean. These spirals, symbols of eternity and regeneration, remind us that for the builders, death was not an end but a passage. Among the most fascinating parts of the Hypogeum is a small, rounded room known as the Oracle Chamber. Its unique acoustics amplify sound in uncanny ways. A deep male voice, spoken within, resonates throughout the entire complex, vibrating through stone walls and echoing in distant chambers. Researchers have suggested that this chamber was used for ritual chanting or oracular ceremonies, where sound itself became a tool of power and transcendence. Imagine priests chanting in darkness, their voices amplified to otherworldly tones, reverberating around the subterranean temple. For those who stood within, it must have felt like the voices of gods. The Hypogeum was also a necropolis, a city of the dead. Archaeologists estimate that the remains of over 7,000 individuals were placed here over centuries. Bones and burial goods were found in niches and chambers, suggesting collective burial practices rather than individual tombs. The dead were not placed here in isolation. They were joined by offerings of pottery, shell beads, figurines, and carved amulets. Perhaps families returned to the Hypogeum again and again, adding their dead to its chambers, maintaining a continuous link between the living community above and their ancestors below. Among the artifacts discovered is the famous Sleeping Lady, a small figurine of a reclining woman. With her rounded body and peaceful pose, she is thought to represent fertility, death, and rebirth, a reminder that in the worldview of these ancient islanders, the cycle of life and death was eternal. The Hypogeum reveals much about the spiritual life of Malta's prehistoric people. For them, the underground was not simply a place to hide or store, but a sacred threshold, a portal to another world. To descend into its chambers was to symbolically return to the womb of the earth, to journey closer to the realm of the ancestors and the gods. Unlike Cappadocia's cities, built in response to human conflict, the Hypogeum seems to have been born of contemplation and reverence. It was not designed to protect life from enemies, but to prepare souls for eternity. Even after a century of study, the Hypogeum remains cloaked in mystery. Who exactly built it? What rituals were performed within its echoing halls? Why did they go to such lengths to carve an entire temple beneath the earth, when monumental temples stood above it? Some scholars see in the Hypogeum evidence of a society deeply concerned with cycles, birth, death, regeneration. Others point to its acoustic properties and artwork as signs of advanced spiritual practices, possibly linked to altered states of consciousness. Still others emphasize its symbolic role as the underworld counterpart to Malta's surface temples, creating a cosmic balance between above and below. Whatever the case, the Hypogeum reminds us that subterranean worlds were not only about survival, but also about belief. They were not always fortresses. Sometimes, they were sanctuaries of the spirit. Today, access to the Hypogeum is limited. Visitor numbers are strictly controlled to protect its fragile walls and paintings. Yet for those who enter, the experience is unforgettable. The air is heavy, the silence profound. One walks not only through stone chambers, but through the imagination of a people who saw the earth itself as sacred. The Hypogeum stands as one of the earliest and most haunting examples of subterranean architecture. It reveals a truth that echoes across cultures, that to go beneath the earth is not always to flee danger, but sometimes to seek meaning. In the vast expanse of China's history, the earth itself was not only a resource to be cultivated, but also a space to be shaped into hidden sanctuaries, tombs, and cities. Beneath fields, mountains, and river valleys, ancient Chinese builders created extraordinary subterranean worlds, some to house the dead in eternal splendor, others to shelter the living from invasion or turmoil. These underground creations reveal a civilization that, while reaching for the heavens with its palaces and temples, also looked beneath the soil to find security, meaning, and eternity. Perhaps the most famous subterranean wonder in China lies beneath a modest hill outside the city of Xi'an, the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. Constructed in the 3rd century BCE, it is a subterranean city for the afterlife, designed to house the emperor's spirit and protect him in death as he had been protected in life. At the heart of this complex, according to ancient sources, lies a vast chamber with a model of the empire itself. Rivers of liquid mercury, mountains of bronze, and a starry sky painted above were said to surround the emperor's sarcophagus. Though modern science has confirmed unusually high levels of mercury in the soil, the central tomb remains sealed, hidden beneath its mound for more than 2,000 years. Guarding it in perfect silence stands the terracotta army, thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, horses, and chariots, each uniquely crafted, standing in battle formation. These figures, unearthed in the 1960s, remind us that for Qin Shi Huang, the afterlife was to be faced as an eternal campaign, one in which he would remain supreme commander. But not all of China's underground worlds were built for the dead. Across the Loess Plateau of northern China, millions of people have lived in yaodong, or cave dwellings, for centuries, and many still do today. These homes are carved directly into soft loess soil, their arched ceilings and thick walls keeping them cool in the scorching summers and warm in the bitter winters. Entire families could live within these caves, which were often arranged around a sunken courtyard, giving them both shelter and community. The yaodong reveal how the Chinese people adapted their architecture to the land itself, turning the earth into both barrier and home. For generations, these cave dwellings provided not only comfort, but also resilience against the harsh environment of the plateau. Throughout China's long history of warfare, rebellion, and invasion, the underground often became a place of refuge. From ancient times through the turbulent years of the 20th century, villages sometimes dug tunnels beneath their homes and fields to evade capture or move unseen. During the Japanese invasion in the 1930s and 1940s, for instance, rural communities expanded their underground networks, creating labyrinths that allowed them to resist occupation. These wartime tunnels, often extensions of traditional yaodong, carried forward a tradition of using the subterranean world as both shield and sanctuary. Not all of China's underground marvels were defensive or funerary. In places like Dunhuang, Yungang, and Longmen, ancient artisans carved entire subterranean temples into cliffsides and caves. These were not homes or tombs, but shrines of devotion, filled with statues, murals, and carvings that brought light into darkness. At Mogao near Dunhuang, along the Silk Road, hundreds of grottoes were carved between the 4th and 14th centuries. They became vast subterranean libraries of Buddhist art, where pilgrims, merchants, and monks gathered. In their darkness, walls glowed with painted Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and celestial visions. These cave temples remind us that for the Chinese, the underground could also be a canvas for spirituality, a place where earth and heaven met through devotion and art. Across these many examples, one theme recurs. The underground in China was never only physical, it was also symbolic. To enter the earth was to approach mystery. It was to enter the world of ancestors, spirits, and gods. For emperors, it meant eternity and cosmic order. For villagers, it meant warmth, safety, and survival. For monks and pilgrims, it meant meditation and the pursuit of enlightenment. Today, China's subterranean heritage continues to inspire awe. Visitors walk among the silent ranks of the terracotta army, peer into cave dwellings still inhabited, and explore the painted grottoes of Dunhuang. In each, they glimpse a civilization that understood both the fragility of life and the permanence of stone. In China, the subterranean world was not a single tradition, but many. Palaces for the dead, homes for the living, temples for the gods, and tunnels for survival. Together, they form a mosaic of human creativity and resilience, reminding us that what lies beneath can be just as significant as what rises above. The Americas, with their soaring mountains, vast plains, and deep forests, hold beneath their surface an equally remarkable world. Underground sanctuaries shaped by ancient civilizations. From the caves of the Maya to the subterranean temples of Peru, these spaces were not simply shelters or tombs. They were sacred realms, portals to the underworld, and theaters of ritual where humans reached toward the divine. To the peoples of the Americas, the earth was alive. Mountains were deities, rivers were lifeblood, and caves were the womb of creation itself. Entering the subterranean world was never a mundane act. It was an entry into the spiritual heart of the cosmos. Few cultures expressed this more vividly than the Maya. For them, caves were holy places, gateways to Xibalba, the underworld. Mythology describes Xibalba as a realm ruled by powerful deities, where souls journeyed after death and where rituals of renewal were performed. In the Yucatan Peninsula and highlands of Guatemala, archaeologists have found extensive evidence of cave rituals. Ceramic vessels, offerings, and even human remains have been discovered deep within caverns like Naj-Tunish and Balancanche. These were not random deposits, but carefully placed gifts to the gods, often linked to fertility, rain, and agricultural cycles. The Maya believed that caves connected directly to the waters beneath the earth. The sacred cenotes, or natural sinkholes. Through these openings, rain and life itself emerged. To step into a cave, then, was to enter the very heart of creation, to meet the gods who controlled life and death. Far to the north, at Teotihuacan, one of the greatest cities of ancient Mesoamerica, the idea of subterranean sanctuaries reached monumental expression. Beneath the Pyramid of the Sun, archaeologists uncovered a man-made cave that appears to have been central to the city's foundation. This cave, shaped like a four-petaled flower, symbolized the cosmos itself. It may have been a pilgrimage center long before the pyramid was constructed above it. For the people of Teotihuacan, the cave was not just a hollow beneath the earth, but the navel of the world, the point of origin from which creation unfolded. Later, beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, excavations revealed long tunnels filled with offerings of jade, seashells, and sculptures. Pools of liquid mercury, discovered in recent years, suggest attempts to create a shimmering underworld river. These finds remind us that even in the largest urban centers of the ancient Americas, the underground remained a place of divine power. In the deserts of southern Peru, the Nazca, famous for their vast geoglyphs etched into the desert floor, also looked beneath the surface for survival. They constructed an ingenious network of puquillos, underground aqueducts that brought water to their parched lands. Spiraling stone entrances still led into these subterranean channels, where water flowed through carefully engineered tunnels. To the Nazca, water was sacred, and the act of channeling it through the earth carried not only practical value but also spiritual meaning. These underground systems were lifelines, blending engineering with reverence for the hidden forces beneath the desert. Further north in the Peruvian highlands lies Chavin de Huantar, a ceremonial center built around 900 BCE. Here, subterranean passageways twist beneath stone temples, creating a labyrinth that may have been used in initiation rituals. At the heart of these underground corridors stands the Lanzon, a carved granite monolith depicting a fearsome deity. Pilgrims navigating the tunnels would have encountered its looming form in flickering torchlight, perhaps after being disoriented by sound, shadow, and the maze itself. For the Chavin, the underground was not only sacred, it was transformative. To descend into the labyrinth was to leave the ordinary world behind and emerge changed, touched by the divine. What unites these subterranean sanctuaries across the Americas is their role as thresholds. They were points of contact between human and divine, life and death, earth and cosmos. Whether as places of water, fertility, creation, or transformation, the underground was always imbued with mystery. For the Maya, caves were entrances to the underworld and sources of life-giving rain. For Teotihuacan, the cave beneath the Pyramid of the Sun marked the cosmic center. For the Nazca, underground aqueducts were channels of survival and sacred water. And for the Chavin, shadowed corridors led to spiritual awakening. Today, many of these sites remain active places of reverence. Indigenous communities continue to view caves and sacred springs as living portals. Pilgrims still visit Chavin, and tourists walk through Nazca's spirals, marveling at how ancient peoples bent the earth to both survive and transcend. In the Americas, the subterranean world was not hidden out of fear. It was revered as the deepest place of power. Beneath the soil and stone lay the pathways to gods, ancestors, and eternity. To step underground was to enter a different realm, one where the mysteries of creation, transformation, and survival converged. The word catacomb comes from the Latin phrase ad catacumbas, meaning near the hollows. It referred originally to a specific area on the Appian Way outside Rome, where subterranean burials were carved into soft volcanic rock. Over time, the name came to describe similar underground cemeteries across the ancient world. Why go underground? In many regions, particularly Rome, space above ground was limited, and laws forbade burials within the city walls. Tufa, the porous volcanic stone common in central Italy, made it easy to dig vast networks of tunnels. These became repositories for the dead, but also sanctuaries for the living, who gathered there to mourn, pray, and celebrate rituals of remembrance. The most famous catacombs are those of Rome, sprawling beneath the city in a honeycomb of passageways stretching for hundreds of kilometers. Beginning in the 2nd century CE, these spaces became closely linked with early Christianity. Here, Christians buried their dead in loculi, rectangular niches carved into the walls, and in more elaborate chambers known as cubicula. Frescoes, carvings, and inscriptions adorn the walls, telling stories of faith and hope in the face of persecution. Scenes of Jonah and the whale, the Good Shepherd, and the breaking of bread appear again and again, reflecting the themes of resurrection and salvation. Far from being grim, these images celebrated eternal life, offering comfort to those who gathered in the dim, torch-lit halls. Though legend paints the catacombs as secret hiding places for Christians fleeing Roman authorities, scholars now believe they were primarily cemeteries used openly for burials and memorials. Yet their sacred atmosphere undoubtedly strengthened the identity of a community that would one day rise from marginality to shape an empire. Beyond Rome, catacombs flourished in other corners of the ancient world. In Alexandria, Egypt, the catacombs of Qom el-Shokafa blend Greek, Roman, and Egyptian traditions in a unique subterranean masterpiece. Carved during the 2nd century CE, these catacombs descend in spiraling staircases to chambers decorated with hybrid iconography. Reliefs depict serpents alongside Roman armor, and Egyptian deities appear in Greco-Roman style. Here, cultures met in stone, testifying to Alexandria's role as a crossroads of civilizations. At Qom el-Shokafa, the underground was not only a burial space but a symbolic union of traditions. Death was not an end, but a passage, honored with art that merged worlds just as the catacombs themselves merged light and darkness. In Asia Minor, particularly in places like Cappadocia, subterranean burial chambers were integrated into the larger networks of caves and underground cities. These were not sprawling catacombs on the scale of Rome, but they still reflected the desire to place the dead beneath the earth, closer to the womb of creation. North Africa, too, had its catacombs, especially in Carthage, where both Christians and pagans laid their dead in underground galleries. These spaces remind us that the practice was not confined to one religion or empire, but was a widespread response to the practical and spiritual needs of ancient societies. What unites the catacombs of Rome, Alexandria, and beyond is their profound symbolism. To enter the earth was to return to origins, to be sheltered by the mother of all life. For Christians, burial underground mirrored the entombment of Christ and promised resurrection. For others, it represented a passage into the world of ancestors and gods. Catacombs were not only spaces of death, they were spaces of community. Families gathered to commemorate anniversaries of the departed, sharing meals and prayers in underground chambers. In their silence, the catacombs carried the voices of the living as much as the memory of the dead. Today, these subterranean necropolises are preserved as archaeological treasures. Tourists walk through the long, shadowed corridors of Rome's catacombs of San Callisto or San Sebastiano. In Alexandria, visitors descend the spiral staircases of Qom el-Shokafa, marveling at the fusion of art traditions. The catacombs remind us that beneath the grandeur of ancient cities, another world thrived. One devoted not to power or conquest, but to memory, faith, and the eternal questions of human existence. One of the most obvious reasons for building underground was survival. In regions plagued by conflict, invasions, or nomadic raids, subterranean cities offered safety invisible from the surface. Cappadocia in Turkey exemplifies this motive. Cities like Derinkuyu and Kaymakli were constructed with narrow tunnels, massive rolling stone doors, and hidden passageways to slow and confuse intruders. Entire populations, men, women, children, and even livestock, could retreat into these subterranean fortresses for weeks or months. The earth itself became a shield, and darkness became a weapon against human threats. Similarly, the Loess Plateau in northern China saw entire communities living in Yaodong, cave dwellings that protected families from harsh winters, banditry, and natural disasters. Across cultures, the underground was both sanctuary and strategy. In many cases, subterranean living was also a response to the environment. The earth provides natural insulation, keeping temperatures stable regardless of scorching heat or bitter cold. In Malta, the Hypogeum's limestone walls maintain a consistent temperature, creating a secure environment for both ritual and burial. In Peru, the Nazca constructed puquios, underground aqueducts, not only to channel water, but to ensure survival in a desert climate. And in China, cave dwellings offered warmth in winter and coolness in summer, a simple yet effective adaptation to extreme seasonal variation. The underground has always been intimately connected with death and remembrance. Catacombs in Rome, Com el Shokafa in Alexandria, and the Hypogeum in Malta were carved to honor the dead and provide them with a sacred space. Burial beneath the earth was symbolic. It mirrored the natural cycle of life, positioning the deceased close to the womb of the earth. These spaces allowed families to maintain contact with their ancestors and for societies to express beliefs about life, death, and eternity. In some cultures, tombs and subterranean temples were considered portals to the divine, where the living could engage with spirits or gods through ritual and prayer. In addition to burial, many underground spaces were created specifically for worship and ritual. Buddhist cave temples in China, Chavin corridors in Peru, and the sacred Maya caves of the Yucatan all illustrate the spiritual significance of the underground. The Hypogeum of Malta, with its oracle chamber, used acoustics to amplify sound for ritual purposes, while Teotihuacan's subterranean chambers symbolized the cosmic center. Darkness and silence became tools of transcendence. To go underground was not simply to hide, but to approach another realm, a place where the material and spiritual worlds converged. Subterranean spaces also served social purposes. In ancient cities, storage rooms, communal kitchens, and meeting halls were carved underground to sustain communities during siege or famine. Underground spaces allowed entire populations to maintain continuity of life when the surface became unsafe or inhospitable. In some cases, secrecy was essential to identity. Early Christians used the Roman catacombs not only for burial, but to solidify community in times of persecution. Similarly, sacred caves in Mesoamerica and South America functioned as sites of initiation, pilgrimage, and collective ritual, reinforcing social cohesion and cultural memory. Finally, there is a human fascination with the unknown. Caves, tunnels, and hidden chambers evoke curiosity and wonder. The act of carving or exploring underground spaces allowed humans to engage directly with the earth itself, transforming natural rock into a medium for survival, art, faith, and imagination. From Cappadocia to China, Malta to Peru, the underground has been a canvas for human ingenuity. It allowed communities to endure, worship, and express themselves in ways impossible above ground. Across continents and millennia, the motives for going underground converge on a central truth. Humans seek security, continuity, meaning, and connection to forces beyond themselves. Whether for survival, ritual, burial, or adaptation, subterranean spaces are a testament to the human spirit's creativity, resilience, and reverence for the unseen. To descend beneath the earth is to step into a world both practical and mystical, a hidden realm where life, death, faith, and imagination intertwine. Across cultures, across epochs, the underground has always offered what the surface cannot: protection, mystery, and a doorway into eternity. Beneath the surface of the earth, ancient civilizations accomplished feats of engineering that continue to astonish modern architects and archaeologists. From labyrinthine cities in Turkey to ritual temples in Malta, from vast aqueducts in Peru to cave dwellings in China, subterranean spaces demanded precision, foresight, and a deep understanding of the materials and environment in which they were built. The challenges were immense. Builders had to contend with darkness, unstable rock, limited ventilation, water management, and structural integrity. Yet across continents, cultures developed ingenious solutions that allowed entire communities to live, worship, and bury their dead underground, sometimes for centuries at a time. One of the most striking aspects of subterranean engineering is the creation of tunnels. In Cappadocia, tunnels in cities like Derinkuyu descend over 280 feet, linking multiple levels in complex labyrinths. These passages are carefully calculated for defense, movement, and airflow. Narrow corridors slow intruders and guide inhabitants safely through the city. Strategic curves prevent attackers from seeing the full layout, while hidden chambers and false passages further protect residents. Architects employed natural geological formations, using the soft, tough rock to carve passageways without compromising structural stability. In many underground cities, massive rolling stone doors serve as both security and engineering marvel. Some weigh over a ton and were balanced on stone tracks, allowing a single person to move them. These doors could seal entire sections of a city, protecting families from external threats. The precise alignment of these doors demonstrates an understanding of weight distribution and mechanics. Many could only be operated from within the tunnels, ensuring that intruders could never force their way through without knowledge of the city's internal design. Air circulation was another critical concern. Subterranean cities often spanned hundreds of meters below ground. Without ventilation, smoke from fires and stale air could make life impossible. Derinkuyu alone contains nearly 15,000 ventilation shafts, strategically placed to ensure fresh air reaches every level. Some shafts extend over 100 feet into the rock, hidden from view on the surface. Similar attention to airflow appears in China's Yaodong dwellings and in underground temples, where tunnels and shafts regulate both temperature and air quality. In the Hypogeum of Malta, ventilation also served spiritual and acoustic purposes. The oracle chamber's design amplifies sound while maintaining airflow, demonstrating that engineering was intertwined with ritual function. Water was essential, whether for drinking, agriculture, or ritual. Ancient engineers devised methods to secure reliable water supplies underground. Wells in Derinkuyu were dug to depths that tapped aquifers while remaining inaccessible to attackers. In Peru, the Nazca and Inca constructed puquillos, underground aqueducts that transported water across arid deserts. These channels were carefully sloped and reinforced with stone, ensuring a continuous flow and protecting against collapse. Water systems were often combined with storage chambers and channels to serve entire subterranean communities. The choice of material was key. Builders selected soft yet stable rocks such as tuff in Cappadocia, limestone in Malta, and loess in China. This allowed precise carving without modern tools. Arches, pillars, and corbelling techniques were used to distribute weight and prevent collapse. Chavin de Huantar in Peru demonstrates advanced knowledge of vibration and stability. Its underground corridors survived centuries of earthquakes, a testament to careful planning and engineering intuition. Engineering was not only practical. Many subterranean spaces were designed for sound and experience. Echo chambers, vaulted ceilings, and domed rooms amplified voices, chants, or ritual instruments. At the Hypogeum of Malta, the oracle chamber turns a whisper into a resonant echo, blending architecture and acoustics with spiritual intention. Similarly, Buddhist cave temples and Mesoamerican ceremonial tunnels often employ vaulted ceilings and chambers to enhance ritual experience, guiding visitors through sound, light, and spatial perception. The ingenuity behind these underground spaces demonstrates the universal creativity of human societies. Without metal tools or modern machinery, ancient engineers carved entire cities, temples, and water systems into solid rock. They considered structural stability, defense, airflow, water supply, acoustics, and ritual, all in one unified design. These subterranean marvels remain a testament to human adaptability, foresight, and technical skill. They remind us that engineering is not only about construction, it is about shaping the environment to serve human needs, safety, spirituality, and culture. For centuries, the vast network of underground cities, temples, and tunnels remained hidden, protected by earth, legend, and obscurity. Many were forgotten by history, known only to local villagers or referenced in ancient texts. Yet the 19th and 20th centuries brought explorers, archaeologists, and historians who uncovered these silent worlds, revealing civilizations that had thrived out of sight for millennia. Derinkuyu and Kaymakli, long used as storage and shelter by locals, were rediscovered in the modern era almost by accident. Derinkuyu, for example, came to widespread attention in 1963, when a resident stumbled upon a hidden room behind a wall in his home. Once archaeologists entered, they uncovered a city capable of housing thousands, complete with ventilation shafts, stables, kitchens, and rolling stone doors. Subsequent surveys revealed over 200 underground settlements in Cappadocia. Modern researchers are still mapping connections between them, raising tantalizing questions about the scale of these subterranean networks. Could entire populations move between cities without ever surfacing? How were these vast networks planned and maintained? The answers remain partly speculative, but the rediscovery has transformed our understanding of Anatolia's history. The Hypogeum of Malta, discovered in 1902, provides another striking example. Initial excavation caused damage, but careful archaeological work soon revealed a complex of chambers spanning 3 levels, adorned with carvings, painted spirals, and acoustic wonders. Today, visitor numbers are strictly controlled to preserve the fragile site. Yet even limited access allows modern audiences to experience the profound spirituality embedded in the rock. Scientists continue to study the hypogeum's acoustic properties, wondering if the ancient builders understood sound physics or simply discovered it empirically through ritual experimentation. In China, the rediscovery of cave dwellings, Buddhist grottoes, and ancient tombs has shed light on the resourcefulness of past civilizations. The Terracotta Army, unearthed in 1974 near Xi'an, captivated the world with its scale, precision, and artistry. Beyond the army itself, the sealed mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang remains one of the most mysterious and carefully engineered subterranean tombs ever created, preserving secrets that may not be fully revealed for decades. Similarly, Yaodong dwellings and cave temples illustrate how modern communities have preserved, and sometimes adapted, ancient subterranean techniques for survival, spiritual practice, and cultural continuity. In the Americas, archaeological exploration has unveiled hidden sanctuaries, ceremonial caves, and extensive underground aqueducts. The catacombs and ritual caves of the Maya, the Nazca's Puquillos, and the labyrinthine corridors of Chavin de Huantar are all now subjects of intense study. Modern mapping, 3D scanning, and remote sensing technologies allow archaeologists to reconstruct these underground networks without disturbing their fragile structures. These tools are revealing insights into spatial planning, religious practice, and water management that were previously unimaginable. Part of our fascination with subterranean cities lies in the sheer ingenuity of their creators. These were societies without advanced machinery, yet they solved complex engineering, architectural, and environmental challenges with skill, creativity, and foresight. There is also a psychological allure. Subterranean spaces evoke mystery, secrecy, and adventure. They remind us that human civilization is not just what rises above ground, palaces, temples, and monuments, but also what lies hidden beneath. In darkness, communities survived, worshipped, and preserved their most sacred beliefs. Furthermore, these underground worlds bridge past and present. They show us how humans have consistently adapted to environmental, social, and spiritual pressures, offering lessons for resilience, ingenuity, and the interplay between culture and geography. Popular culture has amplified this fascination. Documentaries, novels, and films frequently depict subterranean worlds as places of danger, mystery, or enlightenment. While dramatized, these portrayals reflect a deep-seated curiosity about life beneath the surface, a curiosity that mirrors the motivations of the ancient peoples who first dug tunnels, carved chambers, and built secret cities. Beneath the surface of the earth, hidden from the eyes of ordinary travelers, lie not only tunnels and chambers, but the seeds of human imagination. Throughout history, subterranean spaces have inspired myths, legends, and stories of lost civilizations. Tales that blend memory, fear, and wonder, leaving traces in both folklore and archaeology. From ancient Anatolia to the Americas, underground worlds were more than practical constructions. They were symbolic landscapes, gateways to unknown realms where the natural and supernatural intertwined. Many cultures conceive the underground as a domain of gods, spirits, or ancestors. In Greek mythology, Hades ruled the realm beneath the earth, a place of both punishment and reward. In Mesoamerica, the Maya envisioned Xibalba, a dark underworld where deities tested the courage and wit of mortals. The Greeks, Maya, and countless other civilizations projected their spiritual fears and aspirations into the subterranean, turning the unseen into a canvas for storytelling. These myths were not merely imaginative. They guided behavior, architecture, and ritual. The placement of tombs, temples, and ritual caves often mirrored mythological cosmology. The Hypogeum of Malta, with its oracle chamber, may have been designed to evoke otherworldly voices, while the tunnels beneath Teotihuacan symbolized cosmic centers, linking human cities to celestial and chthonic realms. Legends of lost subterranean civilizations have persisted for centuries. Tales of Agartha, an underground kingdom stretching beneath continents, or Shambhala, a hidden spiritual city in the Himalayas, reflect humanity's fascination with what lies beneath. While these accounts often blend fantasy and imagination, archaeology sometimes confirms that secret cities, long abandoned and buried, did exist. Cappadocia's network of underground cities hidden for millennia was once considered legendary until rediscovered in modern times. Similarly, the vast tunnels of the Inca and Nazca civilizations were hidden in plain sight for centuries, accessible only to those who knew where to look. The persistence of these legends shows the enduring human belief that the underground holds secrets far beyond immediate perception, treasures, knowledge, or civilizations lost to time. Subterranean spaces often appear in folklore as thresholds between worlds. Caves, tunnels, and ruins were believed to house spirits, monsters, or divine forces. In Cappadocia, local legends spoke of the hidden people and secret communities living below, a memory perhaps of ancient use. In South America, indigenous tales describe spirits inhabiting caves, demanding respect or offering guidance to those who dared enter. Such stories reinforced social and religious norms, ensuring that the subterranean remained a place of reverence and caution. Part of the fascination with underground worlds comes from the unknown itself. Unlike monuments and cities above ground, subterranean spaces are concealed, requiring effort, courage, or intuition to explore. This has fueled countless stories of explorers, adventurers, and archaeologists uncovering wonders beneath the soil, sometimes encountering evidence of advanced ancient engineering, elaborate rituals, or civilizations whose memory had faded from history. The combination of secrecy, scale, and human ingenuity makes these spaces fertile ground for myth. A tunnel that once served as a water conduit may become, in legend, the passage to a lost kingdom. A burial chamber may become a portal to the underworld. Myths and reality intertwine, each enhancing the other. Today, archaeologists study these spaces with scientific rigor, uncovering facts behind the myths. Yet even as science illuminates the truth, the sense of wonder remains. Descending into the Hypogeum, wandering the catacombs of Rome, or exploring Chavin de Huantar, one cannot escape the feeling that these spaces connect us to something larger, a continuum of human thought, faith, and imagination. Legends of underground worlds persist not despite archaeology, but alongside it. They remind us that human creativity, curiosity, and fear of the unknown are as ancient as the tunnels themselves. As we ascend from the hidden chambers, tunnels, and sacred halls of ancient subterranean cities, one cannot help but ask, what do these extraordinary spaces teach us today? Beyond awe and fascination, the lessons of the underground resonate in engineering, sustainability, community, spirituality, and the resilience of human imagination. First and foremost, subterranean cities reveal the remarkable engineering intelligence of ancient societies. Without modern machinery, electricity, or computer modeling, civilizations like those in Cappadocia, China, and Peru solved complex structural challenges, ensuring ventilation, water supply, and stability while accommodating thousands of people underground. Modern architects and engineers continue to study these ancient designs for inspiration. The principles of natural insulation, passive airflow, and earthquake-resistant construction remain relevant, particularly as contemporary cities seek sustainable and resilient solutions. Ancient subterranean engineers teach us that innovation often emerges from necessity and from careful observation of the natural world. Subterranean spaces embody the resilience of human communities in the face of adversity. Whether sheltering from invaders, harsh climates, or natural disasters, ancient peoples adapted to extreme conditions by turning the earth itself into protection. In an era of climate change, population growth, and urban density, these lessons resonate profoundly. Underground construction offers strategies for energy efficiency, protection from extreme weather, and preservation of scarce resources. The ancient impulse to adapt, to make the unseen world functional, reminds us that ingenuity and flexibility are crucial for survival. Subterranean cities were not only practical, they were social spaces. Communities organized around tunnels, chambers, and courtyards, sharing resources, labor, and defense. Ritual chambers and temples underground reinforced cultural and spiritual cohesion. Modern society can learn from this integration of function and community. Even in urban centers above ground, spaces that encourage shared experience, collective memory, and cultural continuity enhance human connection. Ancient subterranean societies demonstrate that architecture is not only about shelter, but about fostering belonging. The underground also offers a lesson in spiritual and symbolic thinking. Caves, catacombs, and temples were not only practical, they were sacred, designed to inspire awe, reflection, and reverence. From the Oracle Chamber of Malta to the sacred Maya caves, subterranean spaces reminded humans of their place in the cosmos. In today's fast-paced, technologically dominated world, the ancient impulse to create spaces of contemplation, mystery, and ritual encourages reflection on the intangible aspects of life. The underground teaches us that humans need more than survival. We need wonder, inspiration, and connection to forces larger than ourselves. Modern exploration of subterranean sites emphasizes preservation and stewardship. Derinkuyu, the Hypogeum, and the Terracotta Army have survived centuries, but only careful conservation allows future generations to experience them. These efforts remind us that history is fragile. Ancient underground worlds survived because they were built with foresight and respect for materials. Our survival of heritage requires similar care. The modern world must balance curiosity and discovery with responsibility, ensuring that these cultural treasures endure. As we emerge from the labyrinthine tunnels, echoing chambers, and hidden sanctuaries of the ancient world, we realize that subterranean cities are far more than architectural achievements. They are repositories of memory, monuments to human ingenuity, faith, and resilience. Beneath the earth, civilizations wrote their stories not on parchment or stone above ground, but in the rock itself. Layer by layer, chamber by chamber, tunnel by tunnel. In the silence of these underground chambers, one realizes that memory, like the tunnels themselves, runs deep. And that the stories of the past, carefully carved into the earth, will continue to guide, inspire, and captivate those who dare to descend.